Introducing Wyrd Sisters in one chapter, starring 3 witches, also kings, daggers, crowns, storms, dwarfs, cats, ghosts, spectres, apes, bandits, demons, forest, heirs, jesters, torturers, trolls, turntables, general rejoicing, and diver alariums. Whatever they are. Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyter, and today we're going to be taking a look at book 6 of 41 of Discworld novel series. This is Wyrd Sisters, and oh, how they're weird. And they are sisters. So it does exactly what it says on the tin. Although this isn't a tin, this is a novel. And it is by, yes, of course, Terry Pratchett. And this is the standalone book, but it is the second of the Witches collection. Because what tended to happen is book 1, The Colour of Magic, and book 2, The Light Fantastic, it was a sequel. They were kind of 2 books that had shared the same plots and characters and all of that. And then, after that, it was all just standalone, but reoccurring characters. So this is book 2 of The Witches. Let's find out just how weird they are. Yes, the witches are back. Oh, yes. Well, Granny Weatherwax, anyway. And she is back, and she is joined by Nanny Ogg, who is the owner of the world's most evil cat, and also Margrat Garlick. Garlick, yeah, but it's not quite spelt the same way. She is a junior witch who believes in the occult jewellery, covens, and bubbling cauldrons, much to the annoyance of the other 2 witches. So that's kind of like the main characters that are in the novel. And the actual plot setup is quite complicated, so I might need to look down at my notes for this. Anyway, King, I don't know how you pronounce this, it's going well, isn't it? King Wyrd, is that how you pronounce it? The first of Lancre, again, I'm rubbish with the made-up names, is murdered by his cousin. Oh, yes. And his cousin is Duke Felmet, and after his ambitious wife persuades him to do so. So his ambitious wife of the Duke persuades the Duke to kill the king and their cousins. Clear so far? Well, the king's crown and child, so the king has a child, are given by an escaping servant to, yes, you've guessed it, our 3 witches. Now, the witches, they're unsure what to do because they don't, witches, they're not meant to interfere with kings and queens and that all sort of, stuff that's beneath them. That's their opinion. So they don't know what to do with this. So what they do is they hand the child to a troupe of travelling actors. And what they do is they also hide the crown in the props box with all the other crowns, yeah? Clever. I like that plan. What could possibly go wrong? The witches agree that destiny will eventually take its course and that the child, named Tom John, will grow up to defeat the Duke, yeah, the evil, nasty Duke that killed his cousin, the king, and take his rightful place as king. Of course, destiny's going to sort that out. Well, obviously things aren't as straightforward as that. So I don't want to give any spoilers away here. I'm just going to be talking about the themes and general overallness of the novel. So there are quite a few themes that run through this, and one of which is power and ambition, as you could probably tell from the setup. And what, power, ambition, what is the driving force behind somebody wanting power and their ambition? Well, in this case, it's greed. The Duke is, it gets driven to murder through, his ambition, or should I say his wife's ambition, but he kind of shares it as well, to have that power, to become the king. And so there's greed that plays heavily into that, and greed of his wife. And of course, if you've got 2 very greedy people, then yeah, they're going to egg each other on, they're going to, they're going to be in a conspiracy. And maybe if you're in a conspiracy, you are more likely to do things that you wouldn't necessarily do, like murder. So obviously the seeds of greed and ambition might still be in the Duke, but as I say, It takes someone else to really put that into action. There is also, as the story unfolds, the Duke does appear to actually suffer from his actions. So he kind of commits the murder, but then he starts to worry about them and starts to suffer about them. And it starts to affect his mental health. He does go a little bit crazy, where his wife doesn't seem to have that. It could be that she's kind of there already and maybe a bit more craziness, mental health affected state of mind to begin with. But the Duke seems to suffer a little bit more, whether it's not because he was the actual one that did the deed, and if you're just an accomplice, you maybe don't feel as guilty. But yeah, so it's an interesting, to see that the characters are actually affected by it. And as I say, that leads on to the other theme that does, is sprinkled throughout this novel, and that is madness and insanity. What does make someone mad? Why do they go mad? I'm using that as a flippant term. I know, mental health is obviously a serious issue, but obviously this is a comic novel, so it's treated with reverence, but it's also treated, with a bit of humour as well. So how does that? I guess that mental deterioration of the brain, how does that happen? What makes that manifest? And for the Duke, it's got to have been doing something that goes against nature. It's not, is it in our nature to actually take someone else's life? I would argue very, very strongly, no, it's not, And so therefore, you've kind of almost, sinned, if I can use that expression, sinned against your own soul. And therefore, if you're trying to suppress that, you're trying to, deny that, that's gonna come out in other ways. Your brain start, in the case of the Duke, he becomes more and more erratic, and the guilt starts to eat him up. So he consequently becomes more and more paranoid, and he starts to be distrustful of even the closest people to him, and so he kind of pushes them away and starts, trying to distance himself and accuses people of all sorts of things that aren't necessarily there. It's all in his mind. And where's that come from? Because of his kind of heinous action that he did right at the beginning. And as I say, strangely enough, the lady, Thelma, doesn't seem to be too affected by that. So again, that's an interesting thing to know. Is it because she's pretty much insane to begin with? Because to egg someone on to want to go and murder somebody just for power ambition. He's a Duke. They're Dukes. She's a lady. I mean, come on. You're already on a status symbol there. You've already got the status. You've already got wealth. Why do you need more? I guess it is a kind of sickness, isn't it? Greed and that power and that lust for greed and power. And the other big theme that runs through here is nature. It's nature, and it's a really beautiful way that Terry Pratchett explores the theme of nature. It's not only people that are affected by the Duke's actions, by the king dying, because obviously that's going to have a knock-on effect. There's a power vacuum, or the Duke steps up to become king, and what is he like as a king? Because certainly back in there, in the Discworld realm, king means that you make all decisions, everybody has to follow what they are, so that's going to have a consequence. What type of person is king or queen is going to have a ripple effect. Likewise, the kingdom is actually angry about the fact that the king has been murdered. They liked the kingdom itself, so I'm talking about the trees, I'm talking about the animals, I'm talking about the actual land, the nature, liked the old king. So it feels like that the nature itself has been violated. So I love that, the way that Terry Pratchett brings nature into human sort of squabbles and human life, which really nature, you don't think of it like that. So I was really impressed with the way that the way he does it. I mean, the way he does it, I'm not spoiling it too much, but he kind of all the animals. All the animals get very angry about it, and they kind of start camping outside of the witches' houses, all the three witches' houses. They just gather around all these houses, and the witches are like, why is that? Why have they all gathered there? And therefore, they know that the witches, this is clever where nature comes in, the witches can kind of correct things, even though the witches don't want to get involved, but nature knows better. And so that nature kind of forces the witches into taking action against the Duke. So I love that fact. It's a beautiful moment, because I like that, because I do believe, I kind of believe that trees are alive. Well, they are alive, but that that they're aware of things, you know. And I just like that concept that everything's connected. So why wouldn't nature be affected? There's also the theme of revenge and loyalty, and also conspiracy. Is revenge ever acceptable? Is it right? Is it right to right a wrong, if you like? So, the murder of a king, it's a bad thing, and therefore, is it justifiable if the king was terrible? I mean, this king, it was pretty much well loved, but if the king is terrible, is it then justified to kind of remove that king? So, if the king's terrible, is it justified to remove the king, kill the king, but then is it, can you then revenge an awful king's death? Would you revenge someone? Probably not. So that's quite an interesting sort of debate to have. If someone's really evil and horrible, yet they rule over the people, is it justified to kind of remove them? And then if someone else is put in their place, is it justifiable for the people that supported the old king to then take revenge on, say, a new king, even if they're good to the people? Again, so is revenge ever justified? And what happens to loyalty? If you have people that were loyal to one king and then a new king or queen comes along, should they then be loyal to the new queen? Are they doing it just to save their own skins? But it's not fair if they were loyal to one king or queen, they might be forced into that loyalty. So should you just also be killed as well, or kicked out and lose your job just because you might be considered a threat to the new regime? So there is that sort of that goes on as well. And with the conspiracy, if there's a new king in this case that's kind of evil, conspiracies happen. Should you then start removing that king? But then are you as bad or as evil as the evil king that killed the old king because you're killing the king? Does that make sense? Is there a rightful way to revenge someone? So revenge can lead to conspiracy, because obviously if you want revenge, you might not be able to do it yourself, so you're going to have to include other people. And therefore, maybe the king who's going mad is justified, that everybody's, he thinks that everybody's against him. Maybe they are. So again, it's a good connection with all the themes there. Can revenge ever be done? Is there a greater good? So it opens up that question. Overall, yes, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the novels. I think that this, now we're on to book 6. He's really found his rhythm with his writing. I've stated this before. Book 1 and book 2, I found his writing to be a bit erratic, and it's almost like he had jokes that he wanted to sort of put in, and it was like shoehorn it into the story. Not this time, no. He's starting with characters. He's starting with plot. He's starting with actual, storylines that will develop over the course of the novel. I do like Granny Weatherwax. She is a great character. She's her own mind. She's boisterous. She's feisty. She doesn't take any from anybody. But she's got her flaws as well. That's a double-edged sword, really, isn't it? Because sometimes if you're too stubborn, sometimes you don't need to be stubborn, but you are stubborn, you dig your heels in, and maybe that's not the best course of action. And the interaction then, you've got 2 other witches. I like the company that the other 2 that Terry's created for them. Nanny Ogg is hilarious as well. She's fairly similar to Granny Weatherwax, but she has her own kind of charms, and there is differences there, and they complement each other. And I think sometimes I quite like the fact that 2 characters can be similar, because when you meet someone that's similar to you, sometimes you do clash with them a little bit because they're similar, and it's like, hang on, what? I don't get it. And then eventually you kind of can forge your friendship because you kind of recognise that your own characteristics in that other person. And then it's a nice to have Margret, the younger, the junior witch. As in a way, that's the eyes of us. We kind of get to see how it is, because she's not as witchy. Well, no, she really likes all the witchy trappings, but that's our view of what witches are like. So they have cauldrons and they cackle and all of that, and they, and they wear pointy hats. Whereas Granny Weatherwax and Nanny Ogg, they don't go in for that. They don't go for the rituals. In other words, Terry Pratchett is saying, look, real witches aren't like what we think in our world of what witches are like. But I like the fact that he's put that in as well. So Margaret's saying, no, we must do a ritual, we must do this. So again, there's a nice bit of humour coming along there. Complement each other very well. The writing, as I say, is effective, it's efficient, and the story moves on at a good pace. It's even and consistent, which is what you want. And the humour this time, as I said before, it comes from the characters, it comes from the situation. I think that's the best type of humour. That's, you know, when I write my books and I try and put humour in it, I don't think, oh yeah, I've thought of a joke or I've thought of a funny situation. No, I think of the story first, I think of the characters, and then I think, and then as it kind of emerges, it's like, oh yeah, that could be a funny bit, and it kind of emerges from the characters and the storyline, not just, oh, I've got a joke and I'll put it in and we'll see where it fits. So yeah, he's really nailed that, the humour now. The humour's there, but it's not necessarily, for me, not necessarily the main attraction. I like his characters and I like his quirky way of looking at the world. And of course he's created the Discworld, which is a big giant disc, you know, that's on the back of 4 elephants, that's on the back of a big giant, you know, turtle or terrapin. Oh, I've forgotten. So yeah, and that's floating through space. So again, the concept is there. It's an easy thing. Also, this novel does, and he does this a lot anyway, he borrows from other literary references. So as you can obviously probably guess from the setup, he borrows a lot from Shakespeare. You've got Macbeth, you know, the dagger of the mind he uses, Out, Damn Spot, the 3 witches, for example, that's set up there, and he does a nice little riff on the opening page of the you know, when shall we 3 meet again? Nice little gag that he does there with that. Hamlet, you've got the ghost of the dead king, Play Within a Play is there. And also there's the theatre company that are roving, you know, they go from town to town, village to village. They actually set up their own theatre company, but they call it the Disc, yeah, rather than the Globe, yeah. So I thought, you know, it's a nice little play on words. There's also other references, Marx Brothers, there's the Tramp from, you know, Charlie Chaplin. Then you've got Laurel and Hardy, references in there as well. So again, it's not like he's copying it as such, he's being inspired by it and doing his own take on it. So if you are familiar with those references, it's quite fun to go, oh, okay, yeah, he's used that, that's quite funny. And I like what he's done with that. So yeah, the story's pretty tight, it moves along swiftly, you know, it's enjoyable, you like the company of the main characters, which I always think is a bonus. So there we are. So yeah, I would recommend. Again, the good thing about the Discworld is that they are standalone. You've got 41 novels. You know, you're not going to start from one and go and read them all in order. Well, unless you're me, of course. But you can just dip in. So if you do like just the granny stories just like the witches stories, you can then just select those and they will make sense all the way. So there we go. Wyrd Sisters. Yes, like it. Thank you so much for watching. Yes, standalone book 6, Wyrd Sisters. Do recommend it. We have reviewed, obviously, books 1 to 5, which are The Colour of Magic, The Light Fantastic, Equal Rights, Mort, Sorcery. The next one on my list is Pyramids. Ooh, going to Egypt, or a country like Egypt, because obviously this is Discworld. Egypt doesn't exist, or does it? I'll find out when I read it. We got lots of other reviews that we have done, film, board games, other books, and we do lots of other things as well on our YouTube channel. We've also got a Twitter account, oh yes, and we've got a Facebook group called, so if you go to Facebook, search for the Bottled Imp Fellowship, click the join button and we will add you in. And also if you do subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel, you will get notification of when our episodes come out. So,
click the bell.
Oh, only if you click the bell.
So
click the bell.
To allow you to get notification.
Yeah, click something.
Otherwise you won't get notification.
You won't get notification. Yeah, well, thank you very much. See, I didn't even know that. See? So I'm going to use that as a catchphrase now. So click the bell. Click the bell. I'm just going to
click something.
Click something. Yeah, I'm going to say that when I'm in the supermarket to people. Hi, click the bell. Anyway, there you go. So click the bell. Remember to keep it unreal, especially if you can turn people into slimy little toads.